Hey everyone, this is not an episode of Cash Out, and it is not Sunday. This is an episode of me hopping on here real quick to give you a cautionary tale and just walk through a little bit of this GameStop, AMC stuff, and Wall Street bets. Wall Street bets, I don't need to go into what's happened by now. Everyone knows the whole shorting thing with GameStop. There's no way to know that this stock would have done what it did. And you can go on Wall Street bets, but the reality is that the people who are on Wall Street bets, they're not in the finance world, right? I mean, maybe some of them are. I don't know. I would say that the people who give you the really concise, well-informed opinions probably have some sort of financial something. But there's a lot of people on there who are just saying it's going here, it's going there, it's going to do this. I caution you to not take those people seriously. This is not something that, nobody knows where this thing is going to go, and nobody knows when this thing is going to reverse course. And I'm not telling you to go out and buy or not buy or do this or don't do that. I'm not a financial advisor. I can't tell anyone to do anything. All I'm saying is be cautious and take profits if you want. Holding on because you think this thing is going to go up in perpetuity forever is incredibly risky. You don't know where this is going to go. You don't know where it is going to stop, and you don't know when it is going to reverse course. Not to mention, you don't know if the SEC is going to get involved. I was reading or saw today on CNBC, they said that they might do a 10-day temporary suspension of the stock, just completely stop allowing any trades for 10 days while they investigate. Doesn't matter what they come up with. Doesn't matter if, whatever their outcome is. The reality is they can do it if they want. And, maybe it continues after that. Maybe it doesn't. The analogy I'll give is if you have a ball. If you take a ball and you throw that ball into the air as hard as you can, that ball will pick up speed and momentum and will go faster and faster and faster as soon as it leaves your hand until it doesn't, right? It's going to go up and it's going to gain momentum and it's going to pick up speed until it kind of starts to slow down, right? And then it's going to get to a level where it can't go any higher. Now, in the ball analogy, right, it just reverses and goes all the way back down. In reality, with stocks, it could go all the way up and it could bounce and it could go up or down. It could go up a little higher, it could go down a little lower. You don't know. And the whole point of this is to caution you. You are listening to people who maybe have no idea what they're talking about. Maybe some of them do, but maybe some of them don't. And if you're taking advice from someone who goes, this stock is going to the moon with 57 rocket ship emojis across the screen, who are they? And why are you listening to them? I know it's tempting when you hear about that guy who made 20 million off of this buying options. And then you think, well, I'd like to make 20 million. Well, are you buying 50,000 calls? No, you're not. And the thing is to do the math. Just do the math. And you can do the math all the way at $2,000. You bought it at 60, divide it by 1,000. What is that? $940 gain. If you bought one share, you'd be up $940. Hardly a millionaire. And that's all I would advise you to do is just do the math, see what you could stand to make if it keeps going, right? Pick different price points, right? Pick 300, pick 500, pick 900, pick 1,000. Eventually, look, this isn't, I've seen it on my own TikTok page. People are saying like, oh no, sometimes it just blasts off into outer space and never comes back. Sometimes, really? Give me some examples of stocks that have just gone up in perpetuity forever, and just keep going. What have you got? Tesla? Is that what you're going to say? Yeah, okay, so that's one company out of thousands. I'm not saying this to be a dick or discourage anyone from buying anything. I'm a stock trader and I roll the dice sometimes just for the hell of it. I like it. I think it's fun. If you're throwing down a little bit, my caution is a couple things. One, don't put in more than you're willing to lose. Two, don't hold on longer than you should. If it starts to reverse, you can sell and lock in your gains and you can always buy it back. There's nothing that says, and I've seen it so many times, I'm going to keep saying I've seen it on TikTok, but I've seen it on TikTok so many times with people saying, oh, I bought Neo at 8 and I sold it at 12. Ugh. Okay, well, why didn't you buy it back at 20? or 30 or 40 or 50. It sets different support and resistance lines along the way. Those are buying opportunities, entry and exit points. Why didn't you buy it back? It's not illegal. It's not against the law to buy something back after you sold it. We always talk about buy low, sell high, but you can buy high and sell higher as well. Just because you bought it at 8 and sold it at 15 or 20 or whatever, doesn't mean you can't buy it back at 35. You can. And in a lot of cases, technical analysis can be your friend. And in instances like GameStop, maybe not. Someone on TikTok asked me, you should take a shot every time I say on TikTok. Someone on TikTok asked me, if you had purchased GameStop, what would you have done using your technical analysis? And technical analysis, on Friday worked. The rest of the time, now it is just rabid, and technical analysis charts, that's not going to do shit. But on Friday, the scenario that I looked at was the stock had had multiple breakouts in the morning, but didn't really go anywhere. And if you look at the whole week prior, it had multiple breakouts throughout the week, but the stock was pretty stagnant in probably around the $30 a share range. On Friday, more breakouts right at the open, but the stock doesn't go anywhere. It's not until the middle of 11 o'clock-ish that the stock kind of starts to curve up. And as it's curving up, breakout, breakout, breakout. But at the same time, if you look down below at the relative strength index, it is overbought right away. It is way overbought right around the time that it's curving up and it's having all these breakouts. To me, that says, just because the stock says overbought doesn't mean that it doesn't have more room to go. As a trader, as someone who pays attention to technical analysis, I'm watching that curve up with the breakouts and the high volume and that it's overbought. And I'm thinking, if I trade this, it's going to be very, very quick. I'm going to jump in and I'm going to jump out because the volume could be extreme. It could pop really quick and then it could drop, and I want to lock in my gains. That's my goal. That's what I do. I lock in my gains, unless I'm a long-term investor or I'm swing trading something for a couple of weeks or whatever. If I'm doing a scalp, I'm hopping in, I'm hopping out. And what I kind of concluded was I would buy it around, I think, $50, right? It was breaking out and it was heading up, 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 up. When at 50, it had the third breakout in a row. I like that. I'm in at $50. And it shot all the way up to around 70. But I said, knowing me, right? Knowing me for a couple of things. One, I historically get out too early. And two, I prefer to lock in my gains and use my technical analysis to be right than just hold out on hopes and prayers and, end up potentially being wrong, right? I mean, maybe I'm right too, but that's not a strategy for me. Just sitting there going, I'm going to roll the dice. I probably would have gotten out around $65, even though it went all the way to 70. And then, of course, the next day it went to 140, and then today it was 244 after hours. Nobody could have seen that coming. And a friend of mine called me this morning, and she was beside herself because she had purchased 10 shares and at 71 and sold it in the high 90s, and she was very upset. And I said, "Why are you upset? You made money." "Well, it's 140 now." "Well, did you know that?" "No." "Well, if you go on Wall Street Bets, people are saying this, people are saying that." "Yeah, but who are they? Who are those people?" I'm sure some of them have financial backgrounds, and I'm sure some of them are very smart, but the majority of the people on Wall Street Bets don't know what they're talking about. They're just following trends. And, if they're making money doing it, great. My caution to them would be there's no shame in taking profits along the way. Holding out because you want more, because you're seeing other people make more, isn't a strategy. It's reckless. That's all I'm saying. I'm not knocking anyone for doing it. If you want to throw in your money and go YOLO on some trades, go YOLO on some trades, man. Go for it. What's your strategy? Technical analysis isn't your friend. You can't look at the charts for this and go, yeah, the support and the resistance. It's not going to work on something like GameStop because there's so much hype being funneled into this thing on StockTwits, on Twitter, on Reddit, on Wall Street Bets. Even on the news, they're talking about it. It's everywhere. When those stocks have hysteria like that, there's no shame in locking in some profits. There's no shame in holding a little bit longer if you want. But when that ball starts to turn around and start to fall back to earth, what's your strategy? So here's the analogy I'll give you, and then I'm going to go into a story. Someone knocks on your door, and they have in their hand, in their hot little hand, the exact profit that you have in Wall Street Bets, GameStop or Nokia or BlackBerry, whatever one of those big hot stocks that they're talking about, you bought and you've now got a profit, whatever it is, $500, $1,000, $100,000. If I knocked on your door right now with that number of dollars in my hand and I said, you could have it, here, take it, what would you do? Especially what would you do if I said, I'll be back in, if you don't take it now, I'll be back in an hour or the next day, and it might be double, or it might be half of what I have, right? If I have 10,000 right now, it might be 20, and it might be 5,000. And then there's no telling. Maybe it comes back up, maybe it doesn't, maybe it just keeps dropping. What are you going to do? Are you going to hold it? Oh, no, please, please, please. I need it to get back up. That's not a strategy. What are you going to do? Needing it to go somewhere because you want the profit that somebody else had is not a strategy. It's rolling the dice and it's being risky, and you might be causing yourself to lose out on the gains that you have. If you are up $10,000 and your goal was to make 100,000 or 50,000, you got 10,000 now and you don't know where it's going to go. Option one is to sell the whole thing, take your 10 grand and not look back. If it goes up and your profit would have been 50, too bad. Option two is to sell half. Take 5,000 now and play with the house's money and let the stock go and do what it's going to do. If it drops all the way, you sell it as it's dropping. If it keeps flying, let it keep flying. Maybe you make 30,000 off the rest of it. Maybe you don't. You've got options is the point. The point isn't that you have to sell the whole position. You can sell a quarter, you can sell half, you can sell all of it. You can always buy back. The caution about buying back is that you don't want to chase. When things keep running, eventually they stop. Eventually the momentum stops. Eventually that ball slows down and then reverses course. That's all I'm saying. Nothing goes up forever. So what's the strategy here? You just keep holding? You don't know what people on Reddit are doing, right? Some people on Reddit are saying, no, you hold, just keep holding. Look, man, some people are struggling in this country and they can't pay their rent and they can't pay their bills and they're faced with some miracle win on a stock, right? Where they're up $10,000 or $5,000 or $3,000. And that money is life-changing. And, you know, they're going on these websites and they're listening to people who aren't financial advisors. They don't know what's going on. Even financial advisors would probably be telling you, take some profit. There's nothing wrong with taking some profit. Holding out is being greedy, and greedy gets people hurt, right? Bulls make money, bears make money, but pigs get slaughtered. And you're going to see a lot of people who are holding out, and you're going to see a lot of people who are chasing into these highs thinking, oh, it's going to keep going. Or you're going to see people who are looking at this going, I missed out on the first rally from 100 to 244. I don't want to miss out again. I'm going to buy it at this high, and I hope that it does what it did so I can make 100% or 1,000% or whatever number it is. That's whataboutism. You know, well, what about this? Well, what about what it did yesterday? Well, what about what it did last week? I want that. I missed it last week, so I'm going to get in now. What you're doing is buying at all-time highs after massive rallies. And the thought that this is just all retail, people like us, is absurd. There are people with big money. Hedge funds are probably getting in on these trades. They're probably buying lots more than we think. They're probably piggybacking off of Reddit. They probably are. They'd be stupid not to. They're probably making some money off of this. And they're probably buying way more shares than us. What are you buying? 10 shares? 5 shares? You know, a couple days ago, GameStop sold 57 million shares traded in a day. And that was like by 10 or 11 in the morning. It had already done 57 million shares. You think that's all people like us buying 1 share, 10 shares, 50 shares? Nah, man. That's hedge funds. That's billionaires. That's institutions with their, piggybacking on this and making a little bit of money. Why not? That's what they do. They got to make money for their shareholders. They'd be foolish not to. So whataboutism doesn't work. Locking in your gains, there's no shame in that. And thinking that something is going to go somewhere because something else did is dangerous too. So here's the example that I have for you. If you followed me long enough, you know that I owned Kodak in the days leading up to their COVID news. So with Kodak, the story was that it was a stock that had popped up on one of my screeners as something that I was trading. I was literally short-term swing trading the stock. Every time Kodak got to $2, that was support, and I would buy. And every time it got up into the $2.30 range, I would sell because that was resistance. And then it would slowly head back down. And as it got close to 2, right, 205, I'd start scaling in. I buy 1,000 shares at 205. Oh, it's 203. I buy another. Oh, it's $1.98. I buy another. I wait for that stock to break support and crash or break out to the downside. Then I kind of step back. But as long as it kind of hovers around support, usually it gets oversold and then it starts to move right back up. And so that's what I was doing with Kodak. I was buying it at $2 and I was selling at $2.30 over and over and over. And I'd hold it. I'd buy it at 2 and I would hold it. I didn't care how long it took, whether it was a week or 2 weeks or a month. I'd hold it. And then gradually, eventually, it would pop and it would start moving back up. And around 2:30, I'd unload it. So around this time, I think I had around 3,000 shares at various price points. And I might have had a little bit more at a higher price. Can't really remember. Anyway, it went from $2 to $2.50 in a day. Now, you might be saying, but look what it did. But I didn't know it was going to do what it did. Neither did you. Nobody did. It went from 2 to 250. Now, what did I say? I'm out around 230. So I've got 3,000 shares here at various price points. I unloaded 1,000 shares at 250. Why wouldn't I have, right? My goal is to make 200 per trade, and I'm up $500 now. All of a sudden, in one day, boom, 2 to 250. I'm out. I sold 1,000 shares at $2.50. Very happy. And the day kept going. The stock kept climbing. And I was like, this is weird. Well, this stock never moves like this. Something must be going on. But when I read the news, there was no news. Nothing. Not a peep from anybody. Kodak closed at $2.98. And I was like, that's weird. I'm selling another 1,000 shares. And I don't know if I sold 1,000 or 100 or 500. But as soon as I sold it, I had regrets. Because in the after hours, it started to climb a little bit higher. And I was like, fuck it, I'm getting back in. And I think I bought back in at $3.05 or $3.13. Can't really remember, but it started to go up after hours. And a tweet came out. A tweet came out and was promptly deleted that said that something big was coming with Kodak. And I couldn't find the tweet, and I couldn't find the thing. And someone had took a snapshot or a screenshot of the tweet. And I was like, this is interesting. Something's going on. And I had 2,000 shares because I had repurchased some after the close. And I was like, I'm holding now. I'm going to hold. And they said at like 6 o'clock, we're going to come out with some news, or we're going to talk about it tomorrow. We're going to have some news. My timeline's a little off because it was a while ago. Following morning, I wake up. Kodak is $11. Sold 1,000 shares. And then it was announced that I think they said they were going to announce that day that they had this big news that was going to change upstate New York where they're based and the country. And I was like, ooh, I've got my 1,000 shares left and I'm holding now because this is interesting now. And we're over $11 now. And at the close, it came out that Trump had tapped Kodak, a film and camera company, to develop a COVID vaccine. I mean, who could have seen that coming? But then, you go online and people will go like, duh, they're a chemical company. Of course they would be tapped. Please. There's Pfizer, there's Johnson & Johnson, there's Moderna. When you think of a vaccine, I don't think anyone on the planet is going, who would be good at this? Kodak. But that's how people go. In hindsight, they're like, yeah, duh, I knew that. No, you didn't. Nobody knew, except for the insiders who knew. And then Kodak was off. And I was like, I got my 1,000 shares left. I've already made considerable amount of money. I got my 1,000 shares at like, I don't know what I paid for it. And Kodak was off. And the next morning, it was just unbelievable. It kept going. It kept going, and I was thinking of that ball metaphor. Eventually, this thing is going to reverse, and I don't know when that's going to be, and there's no way to know because there's no technical analysis. There's no chart that tells you. It really is, at a certain point, your profit is going to be, when that guy knocks on your door and hands you the cash and goes, you can take it now, or I'll come back later. It might be more, it might be less. What you going to do? It was getting to that point where I was like, this is absurd. And it makes me a little nervous, like a good kind of nervous. And I unloaded, I had my 1,000 shares. And I was unloading piece by piece, 200 here, 300, 100, 100. And I was selling off pieces and pieces. And I thought, at this point, I'm going to hold on to a little bit, just for shits and giggles, right? Just roll the dice and see what happens. And Kodak, it just kept going. It went to like 20, it got halted. It went into the 30, after the halt was lifted, it went into the 30s, got halted. Went a little higher into, I think, the 40s, got halted. And every time it got halted, I was saying, it can't keep going. It just can't. Sooner or later, this thing is going to plummet. And it gets into, I think, 48 or 49 or something. And I was just like, fuck this. This is insane. I'm out. It's sooner or later, this is going to stop. And I don't like to chase in these kinds of stocks because there's no way to know what's going to keep going. And you hear these horror stories of people buying at the tippy top because they missed out on the first part of the rally and they were hoping that it just magically, for their benefit, would replicate what it had done earlier. That's what about earlier? It went up 70%. So it'll do it again. It'll do it again. Why? Because you missed out on it? Not how this works, man. So I got out. I sold my last little bit, and I think I kept 100 shares. I think I sold like 900 of my 1,000, and I held on to 100 just for the hell, just to see what was going to happen. If I lost it all, who cares? If it kept going, great. That is my advice. I am not a financial advisor, so I can't tell you what to do. But in my personal experience, what I did was I sold a little bit, and I kept a little left over because who cares at this point, right? If it goes to zero, whatever. And if it keeps flying, I'm sure at a certain point I would have taken that profit too. Sure enough, it hit 60, right? So I sold at 49, it hit 60, and I'm a little bit kicking myself. And there's that part of you in your brain that goes, should I get back in here? Should I keep chasing this? And you can do whatever you want. But for me, I was like, look at the money that I just made. Like, I could barely, what if I chase and it drops? I'm eating into my gains. Which would I rather? Be greedy and be selfish and hope that I can squeeze out a little bit more? Or just be happy with what I got? There are so many people, I think I said this earlier, in this country who are hurting. There's no shame in taking profits. Just because strangers on the website, on Reddit, are telling you, no, hold it. It is your money. It is your decision, right? Your body, your choice. Your money, your choice. If you want to sell that shit and take your profit, there's no shame in that. If you want to sell half or a quarter or all of it, no shame in that. If you chase and you buy back in as it's going higher and higher, what is your plan? When do you get out? Keep in mind, stop losses, trailing stop losses do not work after hours. So if your plan is to just set a trailing stop and then walk away and go, it'll protect me, not so fast, Buster. Because if that thing tanks after hours, you're screwed until the next morning, and your order might not go through if it keeps dropping. So my caution to you is Kodak, and my advice to you is also Kodak. Well, sell along the way because you don't know where this thing is gonna go. And whataboutism doesn't work, right? Because after Kodak, I think Genius Brands came out after Kodak. Again, my timelines might be off, so maybe the whole Genius thing happened prior to Kodak. Doesn't matter. People were doing whataboutism to Genius Brands. Well, look at Kodak. Well, look at whatever the other one was. And maybe it was Neo. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was Neo went from like a penny stock to like $10. People look at these other stocks and they go, what about, right? So you had people getting in on Genius Brands, way low penny stock stuff, right? $1, $2. People were loading up on it. Why? Because they were just hoping that it was going to be the next Kodak or whatever the stock was that had some massive run in the days prior. And they were like, no, this is a Wall Street bets, this is a Reddit stock, this is a StockTwit stock. The last one went crazy, so this one's going to go crazy too. Just because one stock goes crazy does not mean another will. Just because one stock rallies 300 or 500% doesn't mean that they all will. That's just the reality of the situation. This isn't as cut and dry as we're just all in it and it's going to go to $200. Which leads me to AMC. AMC, someone on TikTok asked me, what's the plan for AMC? And the plan for AMC is there is no plan, man. There's no plan for AMC. Nobody knows what's going to happen with it. Yes, it is a Wall Street Bet stock. Yes, GameStop was a Wall Street Bet stock. Yes, GameStop was $4 a share and it shot up to $244 after hours today or yesterday or whatever. All the days have blurred together. Nobody knows. And just because GameStop went from 4 to 244 does not mean that AMC will. And so for people who are getting in on AMC, hoping, fingers crossed, that it's going to be the next GameStop or the next Kodak and shoots up to $60, my cautions are, if you throw that ball up, sooner or later it's going to stop and it's going to reverse course. You don't know when that's going to be. Neither did I. If I had known that Kodak was going to go from 2 to 60, do you think I would have sold my 2,000 shares throughout the course of the day? Of course not. I didn't know what it was going to do. So my strategy, look, and my profit would have been huge, right? My profit, had I kept my 3,000 from 2 and sold it at 60, my profit would have been gigantic. But I didn't know it was going to happen. Nobody does. And there are examples, right? People doing the same thing for Genius Brands, going, oh yeah, Genius Brands, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to go to 70. And it never really went anywhere. I think it got to like $5. And people were like, don't sell, don't sell. And then it ended up dropping. And so everyone who bought it too, they had a nice profit up to $5. Now, if you compare to what it could have been, you know, of course, it's not as great, right? If you bought it 2 and sold at 5 and it goes to 80, you know, but again, you can sell off a piece. You can chip off a little. So let's get into AMC, because I don't talk about the stocks that I own, because I don't pump up stocks. I don't do stock shout outs. That's not my thing. My thing here is to teach you how to become self-sufficient traders. Just like Kodak, AMC is a stock that I have been trading. I have been trading it on what I would say is a COVID play. Every time AMC gets a little bit of bad news, stock drops, I buy. Every time AMC gets a loan or there's news about the vaccine, oh, the vaccine, it's great and we're going to be opening up soon. It goes up, I sell. And then the next day on the news, oh, this vaccine, it's got some concerns, and AMC drops. And I buy, and I'm using my stop, my support and my resistance on my relative strength, my Bollinger Bands and all that stuff. I'm using all my technical analysis. Every time it drops, I buy. Every time it moves back higher, I sell. Every time it moves higher, they say, oh, it's great news. And then the great news becomes bad news and it drops. Oh, they need $500 million. They got a loan for $1 million. Great. Stock goes up. Oh, but they still need $400 million. Stock goes down. Oh, the vaccine, stock goes up. Oh, but there's a second surge and it's coming from the UK and it's going to be deadlier. Stock goes down. All the time like this. So AMC is one that I have been trading. And then I saw that it was on Wall Street Bets. Do you know what I'm thinking as a trader? I'm thinking, you know, I'm going to roll the dice on this. I have no strategy. I have no plan here. I make plenty of money, so this isn't a matter for me of like, I'm not going to be able to pay for groceries, or I'm going to be evicted, or I'm falling behind on my mortgage or condo fees or my rent, or I've got children to feed. I have a profit. I should take it. For me personally, and I hate when people say for me personally, but personally, I'm not selling AMC because I don't need to. The profit is pretty nice already, right? If you saw after hours, AMC went from like $4 to $8 and I think 23 or 24 cents before after hours closed at 8 o'clock tonight. The profit's pretty substantial. Substantial enough that if a friend of mine called and said, what should I do? My advice to the friend, since I'm not a licensed broker, my advice would be take half. If you need the money, if you're hard up for cash, if you're about to be evicted or foreclosed on, and this can bail you out for another 2 or 3 months, take it. Take half. take half your profit and then just roll with the rest and see what happens. For me, I just want to see what happens. This is strictly just for shits and giggles for me. I was comparing, look, the point of this video, I guess, is to tell you whataboutism, everyone does it, myself included. I'm comparing to AMC. I'm comparing AMC to Kodak, and not necessarily the news or the company or the COVID, but just what happened to it. I'm replaying it in my mind going, oh man, I sold at 250 and then I sold at 11 and then I sold in 20 and 30 and 40. And I'm doing it again in my head with AMC. I'm thinking, do I want to sell here? My profit is considerable, but it could be much more considerable. And, I hesitate doing a video like this because I don't want people to think like, oh, well, he's talking about could-haves and should-haves and maybes and fingers crossed, so I'm going to do the same thing, because your situation might be very different from mine. If you are struggling financially and you bought AMC yesterday at $3 and it's $8 now, and you bought 1,000 shares, that's a lot of money and you have a nice profit. And yes, whataboutism? It could go to 50, it could go to 80, it could go to 100, it could go to 244. At these days, who the fuck knows is the point. Nobody knows. If you had asked me, hey, GameStop, it's $60 now, do you think it's going to 100? I would have said, no way. And then it did. And then, and then of course there are the people online who go like, I knew. No, you didn't. Nobody knew. Maybe you had a guess. Maybe you were hopeful. Maybe you were optimistic, but there's no way to know. And, some guys on Wall Street Bets were saying, okay, some guys can say a lot of things. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. It doesn't make those people geniuses. I'm sure there were people saying Genius Brands is going to 50 or 60 or 100 too, and it never did. People get burned and people get hurt. There's no shame in taking profit. If you are up huge on AMC and you need the money, boy, are you going to be pissed if that thing tanks tomorrow morning. On the other hand, if it skyrockets, you'll be kicking yourself. This is the dilemma of stocks like this. There's no metric here that works. There's no technical analysis that works. There's no 52-week high that I can look at, or chart over year that I can look at and go, oh, the support, the resistance, the 200-day moving average. That all doesn't mean diddly. So the question for you is, someone knocks on your door and they've got that profit, that exact profit that you have in cash, and they go, you can have it right now. What would you do? And what would you do if that person said, I'll be back tomorrow, and it might be double or it might be half? If it was half, how would you feel for not taking it when that guy knocked on your door? If your profit's $10,000 right now, $10,000, here, take it. And you go, nah, I'm going to hold off because I want it to be 20. How pissed are you going to be when it's 5,000 tomorrow? And maybe it comes back, but maybe it doesn't. Because whataboutism doesn't work in these kinds of stocks. Just because one did it doesn't mean the other will. How would you feel if I gave you 10,000 right now and said it could be 20 or it could be 5 tomorrow? Which would you take? And what would you do if it dropped to 5? Would you sell, or would you go, no, I'm not selling because I want it to go back to 10. I need it to go back to 10. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe you're at 5, and then you're at 4,000, and then you're at 3,000, and then you're at 2,000. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. So there's no shame in hitting that register and saying, you know what? You got 10,000 right there? Give me half. I'll take 5,000 right now because my rent is 1,000 a month or whatever. This'll. I can go to my landlord and I can say, hey man, don't evict me now. If you're in that kind of situation, and if you're like me and you're not in that situation, if I wake up tomorrow and my profit is cut in half, oh well. Maybe it comes back up, maybe it doesn't. If you can afford to roll the dice on this and you can put in only what you're willing to lose, this video is a little all over the map and there's not a real concise answer here because there isn't a concise answer. There's no one size fits all. There's no perfect answer here. If you sell it now and it shoots up to 15, you're going to be kicking yourself. If you hold it and it drops to 5, you're going to be kicking yourself. That's why the cash analogy is one of my favorites. Someone knocks on your door and they got the money in their hand. What would you do? So it's 10 o'clock. After hours, markets closed 2 hours ago. If you bought AMC, you bought it closed at around $8.24. Typically when stocks gap up huge after hours or pre-market, they open up lower. Typically, historically. This is different. This Wall Street Bets group of people are nuts. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that they're nuts. These people are really brave and they're going all in. They're going balls to the wall on this. And, kudos to them. We'll see what happens. It could open up lower tomorrow or it could open up way higher. I would say historically, when stocks gap up as much as they have, it's $8 now. It could open probably around 6. It could open down, it could open lower. It could open 6.50 or 7. But this kind of, in my opinion, maybe seems a little different. But I will not come out and say I think this or I think that, because who knows? We're all just guessing, right? So if I came out and said, oh yeah, this stock is going to gap down tomorrow morning, and it does, everyone's going to go, you're a genius, you knew it. But there's no way to know. And if I say, oh yeah, this stock is going to keep rallying tomorrow, it's going to open at 15, and it does, you're going to go, this guy is a genius, he knew. But I'm just guessing. I mean, there's no way to know with a stock like this because they have the Wall Street Bets crew behind them. Or I could say it's going to skyrocket and it doesn't, right? I could say, yeah, it's going to be 15 tomorrow and it opens at 6 and everyone's going to go, you're a moron. Oh, I listened to you. And that's why I don't like giving advice, because there's no winning, right? If I say it goes up and it goes up, and you bought it, are you going to credit me? No, you're going to say, yeah, I bought it. And, some other guy said it was going to go up, but I'm the one who bought it. And if it goes down, when I said it was going to go up, you're going to think I'm an idiot. And if it goes, if I say it's going to go down and it goes down, I was right, who cares? And if I say it's going to go down and it goes up, I'm wrong. And, I'm not going to listen to him. He doesn't know what he thought. He said it was going to go down and it went up. So there's really no winning with this kind of thing, which is why I don't do shout outs or call outs or give predictions. I will just give you the cautions that I've given you over the last 37 minutes. And, and the advice, if you don't need the money and you just want to hold it like I am, do it. If you need the money, there's no shame in taking half or a quarter or a little bit here and selling off more in the morning or selling off along the way as it goes higher and higher. Don't put in more than you're willing to lose. Because with a stock like this, when you take that ball and you throw it in the air, eventually it's going to reverse and it's going to come down, and we don't know when that's going to be. But to look at GameStop and compare AMC to GameStop and go, well, if GameStop went to 244, AMC will too. How do you know?